By the year 629 CE, the Muslim community in Medina had grown stronger than ever before. The Treaty of Hudaybiyyah had provided a temporary peace with the Quraysh, allowing Muhammad to turn his attention to a long-standing issue, the Jewish stronghold of Khaybar. Located about 150 kilometers north of Medina, Khaybar was a fortified settlement with vast agricultural resources, making it an essential target for economic and military control. It was home to several Jewish tribes, some of whom had formed alliances with the Quraysh and actively opposed Muhammad's growing power. For years, Khaybar had served as a base for those exiled from Medina, including the Banu Nadir, a Jewish tribe that had been expelled earlier for conspiring against Muhammad. These displaced leaders, along with other influential figures, had bolstered Khaybar's defenses, making it one of the most well-fortified regions in Arabia. With its strategic location, economic influence, and history of resistance against Muhammad, Khaybar had become the next major obstacle in the expansion of Islamic rule. With Medina secure and his forces growing, Muhammad assembled an army of about 1,600 men, including 200 cavalry. The campaign was launched under his direct command, with key military leaders such as Ali ibn Abi Talib, Umar ibn al-Khattab, and Zubair ibn al-Awwam leading the charge. The march towards Khaybar was swift and decisive, relying on the element of surprise to overwhelm the enemy. The people of Khaybar, expecting a longer peace after the Treaty of Hudaybiyyah, had not anticipated an imminent attack. As the Muslim forces approached, the Jewish residents of Khaybar retreated into their fortresses, which were among the strongest in the Arabian Peninsula. The region was protected by multiple fortresses, each functioning as an independent stronghold. This meant that the Muslims would have to lay siege to each one, eliminating them one by one in a slow and methodical campaign. The first major battle took place at the fortress of Naim, one of the outermost defenses of Khaybar. Positioned on elevated terrain, the Jewish defenders used their vantage point to repel several Muslim assaults. Arrows rained down upon the attacking force, and despite their determination, the Muslims faced significant resistance. The siege dragged on for several days, forcing Muhammad to rethink his strategy. Eventually, a well-coordinated night assault breached the walls of Naim. Muslim warriors climbed the defenses under the cover of darkness, engaging in intense hand-to-hand combat. The defenders, outnumbered and exhausted, were unable to hold their ground. After heavy fighting, the fortress fell, and many of the defenders were either killed or captured. Others fled deeper into Khaybar's interior fortifications, hoping to regroup. One by one, the remaining fortresses came under siege. The Jewish forces fought bravely, but they lacked the manpower and reinforcements needed to sustain a prolonged defense. Khamis, the most heavily defended fortress, became the next major target. At Khamis, the Jewish defenders were led by Marhab, a warrior of great renown, known for his strength and battlefield prowess. Confident in his abilities, Marhab issued a challenge of single combat, a common practice in Arabian warfare. It was Ali ibn Abi Talib who stepped forward to accept. The duel between Marhab and Ali was fierce, with both warriors displaying remarkable skill. Ultimately, Ali delivered a decisive blow, cutting down Marhab and shattering the morale of the remaining defenders. The fall of Khamis was a turning point in the campaign. Seeing their strongest fighter slain, many of the remaining Jewish strongholds surrendered without further bloodshed. However, a few fortresses continued to resist, forcing the Muslims to maintain their siege tactics. Slowly but surely, the remaining bastions of Jewish resistance crumbled. Unlike previous conquests where entire tribes were expelled or executed, the outcome at Khaybar was different. Muhammad offered a pragmatic solution rather than total destruction. The Jewish inhabitants of Khaybar were allowed to remain on their lands, but had to submit to Muslim rule. A new agreement was imposed. requiring them to give half of their agricultural produce to the Muslim state as a form of tribute. This arrangement, later known as the dhimmi status, marked one of the earliest examples of a system that allowed non-Muslims to live under Islamic rule in exchange for taxation and political subordination. This decision ensured continued agricultural productivity in Khaybar, while also solidifying Medina's economic advantage. Khaybar's surrender provided the Muslims with immense wealth, including weapons, farmland, and provisions. It also removed a major political and military threat, further securing Medina's northern frontier. The conquest demonstrated Muhammad's ability to not only defeat his enemies, but also integrate them into the growing Islamic state. Beyond the military and economic impact, the conquest of Khaybar had far-reaching political consequences. Muhammad's enemies now recognized that he was no longer just a regional leader. He was on the path to dominating all of Arabia. The Quraysh, who had previously dismissed his authority, watched in growing alarm as Muhammad's influence extended further. The rapid expansion of Muslim-controlled territories made it clear that Medina was no longer just a spiritual hub. It had become a formidable political and military power. The growing Islamic state was shifting the balance in Arabia, and neutral tribes now had to decide where their allegiance lay. Many who had once hesitated to support Muhammad saw the inevitability of his success and began to reconsider their alliances. Another significant outcome of the conquest was the distribution of spoils. Many of the fighters who had joined the campaign did so with the expectation of material rewards. The wealth of Khaybar was divided among the Muslim warriors, further strengthening their loyalty to Muhammad's leadership. Horses, weapons, and provisions were allocated among the ranks, ensuring that the military strength of Medina continued to rise. Some of the more skilled artisans and captives from Khaybar were integrated into the Muslim economy, adding valuable knowledge in fields like metalworking and farming. The conquest provided a sustainable boost in resources that allowed Muhammad's forces to plan further campaigns without the financial strain they had once endured. The victory also reinforced Medina's status as a rising power in Arabia. The political landscape of the region was changing rapidly. What had once been a scattered collection of independent tribes was now beginning to unify under a single banner. The conquest of Khaybar was not just a military success. It was a signal to all of Arabia that Muhammad's vision was materializing. With Khaybar secured, the next phase of his mission was set into motion, and those who had once doubted the strength of the Muslims now had undeniable proof of their growing dominance. The conquest of Khaybar was not just a military triumph. It was a stepping stone for Muhammad's future ambitions. With the Jewish resistance broken, his next move would take him back to the heart of his struggle, the city of Mecca. In the next episode, we follow Muhammad as he prepares for one of the most defining moments in his leadership, the March on Mecca, where Islam's greatest victory would unfold.